Welcome to the Epcotian Adventure,
a podcast where we talk about all things Disney, but we're Epcot-centered.
including tips and tricks, festivals and favorites, and the very latest in our rankings and reviews.
But we're still old enough to remember when we didn't know who the Sherman Brothers were. We just knew we really loved their music.
This is episode 79, D23, Magic Journeys, Memories of the Sherman Brothers.
Or Magic Journeys. Why couldn't they have called it One Little Spark?
So now, please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast as we embark on our Epcotian adventure. Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 79 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And one more D23 experience. This is going to be, happy Labor Day.
We wanted to do just sort of a quicker episode for you today because I know everyone's out doing barbecues with family and getting one last lake trip in there and all those little road trippy things.
Something that we experienced at D23. We got to sit in on a panel with Jeff and Greg Sherman, the sons of the Sherman Brothers.
This was one of our favorite things that we got to do at D23. One of those, I think, once-in-a-lifetime moments for us.
Yeah, because nobody's getting any younger.
Exactly.
And these are the sons of the Sherman Brothers talking about Richard and Robert. And Richard and Robert are no longer with us, so it was very, very heartening to see. Heartening, is that a right word? to see
as opposed to disheartening.
The sons, yes.
Enheartened. We have been enheartened.
We have been enheartened.
Yeah, like you said, no one's getting any younger. I mean, Robert Sherman passed away in 2012 at the age of 87. Richard passed away just this last May at the age of 96. Their kids are grown adults. Like, they were born in the 60s. We're all getting up there. So to be able to sit down in a panel and listen to them talk about memories of their fathers, firsthand memories of the iconic Sherman Brothers, it was really, really fascinating. And we hope that you'll be fascinated too. So we just took some notes.
Yeah, I mean, we really went into D23. If you listen to the last episode, we talked about how we tried to sign up for a whole bunch of different ones. And, well, I mean, we saw the list like exploring new parts of the mind behind the design of Inside Out 2. I would have loved to have seen that.
That would have been cool. There were so many cool experiences. Disneyland Foods yesterday, today, and tomorrow. How fun would that have been?
Once Upon a Costume, Fashion and Design in Disney Animation Films. That one intrigues me because costuming in an animated film...
Right? It still has to be a thing.
I never even thought about that, but it's like location scouting for an animated film. I'm sure it still happens.
I'm sure it does, and they still have like lighting and stuff in animated films. It's all fascinating. And Road to Cherry Tree Lane, Disney's Mary Poppins. How cool would that have been?
That was the other one. I really wished we had gotten that one. I always have loved Mary Poppins.
I feel like the one we got was adjacent to that.
Yeah, I agree. They had some other ones like unusual artwork from the Walt Disney Animation Research Library. I would have loved to have seen this. Things that didn't make it to animated films or, just weird locations. Things from like Atlantis and some of the more obscure films that are fantasy-based like that, or Treasure Planet.
I love that movie.
Or Black Cauldron. Oh my gosh.
There was opportunity for all kinds of stuff in there, yeah. One of them that I thought would have been fun was Beauty and the Beast be part of a Broadway show where they actually brought in directors and actors from the Broadway show and taught you choreography.
That's right up your alley.
Like, how fun. I mean, choreography is not really my jam, but Broadway, I mean, come on. How fun would that have been to just get to be a townsperson in Belle and then perform? How fun.
It'd be like the attraction at Magic Kingdom.
Right.
Except you don't get to walk through the looking glass or the mirror or whatever it is there. I guess looking glass, that's Alice. But anyway. The one I really kind of wished I could have stopped by and saw was the autograph signing with cast and creators of Futurama.
It's crazy. How could they even know about a show from 1,000 years ago? Well, Omicron Persei 8 is about 1,000 light years away, so the electromagnetic waves would just recently have gotten there. You see, magic. Got it.
I know that's not your favorite.
No, but I would have gone with you.
Futurama.
And I would have loved to go to the book signing with Anika Nani Rose. As you probably know, she was the voice of Tiana, and she just wrote a children's book called Tiana's Perfect Plan and was there to sign them. How cool. So many great opportunities.
And, if you were a kid, there was even one, The Stars of Descendants, The Rise of Red, photo opportunity. I don't know much about Descendants. I love the premise.
I do too.
That it's the kids of the villains.
Yeah.
And so I need to look more into that, I guess.
I bet we would enjoy it.
Yeah.
But there were other photo ops too, like with That's So Raven had some people there from the cast.
I didn't realize that.
Some Disney Junior had some photo op things. So
they had a very loud, boisterous, interactive
adorable
display. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we tried signing up for all of those experiences, and, well, we got one, like we said. It was the Magic Journeys Memories of the Sherman Brothers. Sue and I both, when we were talking about this, said, we want that one. That's like the one. And we did get it. It was the latest one in the evening, though. It actually went until after the floor had already closed.
Yeah, it started at 6:30. It said it went till 7:30. It actually went till about 8 o'clock, I think. It went a little over.
And I'm glad it did.
Me too. It was so good. I lost all track of time. It was fascinating. I do want to talk about that panel just a little bit because we did learn so many things. We love the Sherman Brothers. The panel was only 3 people. It was hosted by Tim O'Day. And he interviewed Greg Sherman, who's the son of Richard, and Jeff Sherman, who is the son of Robert. So if you are, for some reason, unfamiliar with the Sherman Brothers, let me tell you, first of all, you're not. You do know who they are, even if you don't know that you know who they are, because they wrote a ton of movie scores that I bet you can sing a song from right now.
Here, let's name a few. Mary Poppins.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Me Ol' Bamboo from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I love that song. I'm sorry, I had to say that one because I love that song.
It's a good one.
Stuff from Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
The Parent Trap.
Sword in the Stone.
The Jungle Book.
The Aristocats.
Summer Magic.
This is going to become a game, isn't it? Charlotte's Web.
The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Okay, I'm going to go into the Disney parks instead.
Okay. And Disney parks, they did a ton as well.
So, Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow and the other one that I
Which I did not write down, but it's the one that
Carousel of Progress.
Briefly replaced.
Now is the time. The best time of your life.
The best time of
they
your
wrote
life.
both of those from Carousel of Progress. My favorite One Little Spark from Journey into Imagination, because I love that song.
And our least favorite one, Magic Journeys from Magic Journeys.
Why?
Not our favorite song.
Clowns.
But they made up for it with Making Memories.
Oh, right, from Journey into Imagination.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Dang it. It's from the pre-show for the movie we just said.
Magic Journeys.
Magic Journeys, thank you.
Because it was sponsored by Kodak.
That's right. The one I'm thinking of is Fun to Be Free.
Yes.
From World of Motion.
Which I don't think they wrote. It wasn't on the list. They also wrote Miracles from Molecules from Adventures Through Inner Space. They wrote, of course, the famous Tiki 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 Room from Tiki Room.
I think that was one too many tikis.
And they wrote the most performed and recorded and translated song in the history of all songs ever, according to Time Magazine, which is...
It's a small world after all.
No, anything but that.
It's a Small World. They wrote that lovely earworm.
Why?
We love it.
Why?
It is beautiful. And they wrote it like on the fly because Disney needed a song. Okay, here's the story. Are you ready? Okay, so the original attraction had each country, each section, singing that country's song in their own language.
The national
it was
anthem, yeah.
Chaos. You got in there and you couldn't understand a single thing because everyone was singing a different melody to a different tune at a different tempo. It was absolute chaos. And Disney was like, hey, Sherman Brothers, write me a little ditty that we can translate. And they did. So it was like the ride was already up and running. They were able to experience this chaos in real time. And then they wrote that beautiful song. So say what you will about it. It is a gorgeous song.
A lot of what you find out, or what we found out about the Sherman Brothers, goes back to a documentary that the cousins did on Disney Plus called The Boys. And they talked a lot about that during the interview. And we found out a ton of the family history that I don't think either of us had ever
no
heard.
Clue.
The fact that they had lived 7 houses apart for decades and didn't talk to each other.
They only spoke to work together. The families didn't visit one another. They didn't see each other on holidays. Nothing.
Yeah, Richard and Robert had a huge falling out, which I didn't know ever happened.
I didn't either.
And it was tear-jerking to hear them talk about it. Because, I mean, that's family.
Yeah.
A family,
and 7
y'all.
houses
Come
apart.
on.
I can't even fathom that.
We come from a family where we all love each other and go out of the way to be with each other.
Like on purpose. It's kind of weird.
But we found out things about their legacy. Their grandfather, Al, had immigrated from Kiev, Ukraine, to New York City in 1909. He was a songwriter and composer in Tin Pan Alley. Had done a huge collection of songs from back then. Actually, Sue, you probably know about Tin Pan Alley. That's more up your alley with the entertainment side.
Alley. So Tin Pan Alley, if you're not familiar with that phrase, it was a collection of songwriters and singers, entertainers who performed on West 28th Street in New York City, just out there on the street. There were certain venues that they would go into, but they actually performed on street corners and such. And it went from 1885 through 1930s. Some say it went through the 1950s, but the Depression is really what took it down. So pretty much the 1930s. But by being a part of this community called Tin Pan Alley, he was able to work with a lot of people who became famous. He helped to pair up the Gershwin brothers. He helped in discovering Bing Crosby, Ella Fitzgerald, Cole Porter, all these amazing, amazing musicians. He just had an eye for talent and was like, hey, you need to be doing this full time. You need to be professional. And so he passed that legacy on to kids who were the Sherman Brothers.
We found out, too, that they had a really unique writing style that I had not heard about this either. Basically, they fought a lot, which is what led to their breakup, really, as a family unit. But one of them would start doing something on the piano or writing something, and the other one would go, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and storm out. And all of a sudden, wait a minute, I got it! And come in and start playing on the piano, and the other guy would go, oh, wait a minute, I get it, hold on, and start writing. And all of a sudden, you had magic. It's just, it's amazing to me.
It's such a strange way to work, but apparently it worked for them because they kept creating magic. One of the things that he said specifically was Chim Chim Cheree, which ended up winning an Oscar that year. And he said it was 1 chimney, 2 chimney, 3 chimney sweep. And he was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and just walked out. And then he came running back in. No, wait. Chim Chimmery, Chim Chimmery. And he was like, and it became the magic that we know. Like, it's incredible.
And Spoonful of Sugar.
This was such a cool thing.
That actually came out of the polio vaccination.
It was Jeff Sherman, who was the son of Robert Sherman. So Richard and Robert are the Sherman brothers. Jeff and Greg are the kids who were being interviewed. So this was Jeff Sherman went in to school, and they were doing polio vaccines that day. Now, Jeff Sherman was famously, and I guess still is, terrified of needles and shots.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's normal. That's normal. Fine.
Yeah.
So he came home, and his dad, Robert, was like, so what'd you do at school today? And he's like, well, actually, we got polio vaccines. And Robert was like, okay, that's nice. And he was working on Mary Poppins at the time. So he was sort of intermittently working and listening to his son. And then he was like, wait a minute, you hate needles. Why are you so calm about this? And Jeff said, well, actually, they didn't do it with a needle. They put the medicine on the sugar, and that helped it to go down. And voila, a spoonful of sugar was born.
At which point he goes, you're welcome.
How amazing is that? Like, it was just amazing. To hear these two people talk about this momentous moment in musical history. And he was like, oh yeah, that was born because of me. Like, how cool is that?
I love how things like that come out of families, though. Or, I mean, every song has a backstory. And to hear these guys talk about the Sherman Brothers in an actual familial sense was just amazing.
It was so cool.
Just captivating. And I mean, Jeff writes music still. He's carrying on a legacy, basically. He's been writing for movies and TV. He did music for Au Pair 1, 2, and 3, The Enchanted Musical Playhouse, Boy Meets World. That's probably the most famous one
Absolutely.
For our age, anyway. Greg moved into directing and producing. He did When Ben Stein's Money. I think most people remember that from the 90s. I think
that
goes
show.
Back a long time ago.
He also did Sports Geniuses and Boston Common.
Boston Common. That's probably the most one he's known for then, yeah.
So they're both still working in the TV and movie industry, which I just think is very cool. They both have music at their heart still. And Rod, what was your overall takeaway from getting to be there at the panel?
To be honest, I had very little knowledge of Greg and Jeff, everybody knows, of course, Richard and Robert Sherman. I mean, the Sherman Brothers are Disney legends in their own right, of course. So hearing them talk about the whole, like I said, family unit breaking apart and coming together again, I think the fact that the making of the film, The Boys, brought the family back together, I think was just, that just tugged at my heartstrings. It really, really was amazing. What about you?
Yeah, this was absolutely worth our time. It made me want to do more of the panels. I wish that we had known at the time that we could do standby for the panels we didn't get into, because this one was so incredible. I can't hype it enough. It was so amazing. If they ever bring this one back to a future D23, I would recommend it. Absolutely. Definitely go watch the documentary, The Boys. Sherman Brothers are incredible. They are literally the soundtrack of our childhood.
Yeah, they really were. 200 songs, 27 films, 24 television specials or shows. Not all of them Disney, of course. And
Right.
Charlotte's Web and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang were Universal.
And they did Snoopy Come Home.
Oh,
They
that's
wrote the music
right.
for that, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the Sherman Brothers did. I mean, they really were, like you just said, the soundtrack for our lives. I mean,
Not just our childhoods. You're right, because they still are. It's very true. And, it's funny. They got their start with Disney. They had written the song called Tall Paul, which you may know if you're a Disney fan, but it became Annette Funicello's first breakout hit.
I thought, according to the Muppets, that's a net full of Jello. Well,
We use that joke a lot,
yeah,
but we do
it's
find
still
it funny. So.
And if they do tear that out, I'm going to be sad.
No, we're not going there.
Okay, we're not going there. Okay. But anyway.
But they wrote that song, and she recorded it, and then Walt Disney was like, "Hey, who are those guys who write those fun songs for Annette?" Because
those geeky kids on the piano.
yeah, so they got the attention of Walt, and I mean, the rest is history. It's just amazing that that's how it all started, was with that one song.
Well, it's funny, during the presentation, one of the things Jeff talked about was being in one of the sessions with Robert and Richard, and being there just to watch his dad and uncle work. And like we said before, they fought all the time, and he went in there to see him work, and he got between the two. He's just sitting there, and he's literally holding his dad back to not beat up his brother. I just think that's hysterical. But I can imagine if Walt saw that, it would have been like, I don't know that I want them at my studios. and I mean, yet they went on to do, just amazing things. The last thing they worked on that Walt was actually part of was Jungle Book.
And we should mention they wrote all of the score and music for Jungle Book except The Bare Necessities.
Which is my favorite one.
I know,
that is so
right?
funny. And I figured Phil Harris wrote that, but we looked it
Oh,
up.
no.
It wasn't.
He did sing it.
Yeah, sing it well.
Yeah, 1963 started off their animated career when they did Sword in the Stone. That was their first animated one. Their first Disney movie was actually a 2-part TV movie that they did with Annette Funicello, and that was Horse Masters.
We watched a ton of Wonderful World of Disney. Matter of fact, Sunday nights, it's like we had to get home from church by 7 so that we could see it on TV. And I don't remember this one.
I don't either.
And yet it's like their breakout thing that started them into the films at Disney Studios.
Yeah, it's funny. That was the first thing. And when I was looking up all this research stuff and writing notes about the stuff that they were saying, they mentioned that the Sherman Brothers' father, Al, who we talked about earlier, that his favorite song of their sons out of all of the ones that they did, that he was alive to hear,
right,
was Mother Earth and Father Time from Charlotte's Web. And I had to look this one up. I didn't even remember it.
Yeah, I listened to it just a bit ago, and I don't remember. I remember the film. I remember enjoying the film as a kid, even though deathly afraid of spiders.
Even animated ones?
But I watched it on TV, I don't know how many times, and I don't remember the song.
I didn't either. I did go back and listen to it on YouTube, and it's beautiful. It's a really lovely little tune. But it's funny that the one that he picked out as his favorite of his son's work is one that we had to look up, that when there's so many that we have at the tip of our tongue,
So what other things, you did a lot of research before this. What other things have the Sherman Brothers been known for?
Yeah, like we said, they are basically our soundtrack of our lives. And I think everyone listening would be able to pick out a favorite Sherman Brothers song right off the top of their head, but I don't know, like, I didn't realize that they had been honored so much. They won 2 Academy Awards in 1965, one for Best Original Score and one for Best Song, both from Mary Poppins. Chim Chim Tree is the one that won the Best Song.
I love that song.
I do too. But Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is the one that became a huge pop hit at the time, which I just think is funny.
And it's now in the Bears.
Yeah.
Bear Band sings it over there at the Frontierland. I love that.
And then Walt's favorite song was Feed the Birds. He used to have them come in and play that for him. When he was having a tough day, they would come in and play the piano in his office, and that's the song that he would always ask them to play.
It pains me to say it's my least favorite song of the Sherman Brothers. Oh, yeah.
It's a good one. I think it's nice. But they also, in 2008, they were awarded the National Medal of Arts, which is the highest honor that is awarded to artists in the United States. It's the highest achievement you can get as an artist from the government, that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
And fitting for them.
Yes, well earned. And then in 2018, Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, they renamed one of their sound stages the Sherman Brothers stage.
I love that.
Again, well earned, well fitting. I love that. And there were other accolades along the way. They would be given smaller honors. They won some Grammys. I love that they were acknowledged for their work while they were still living, because that doesn't always happen. So that was very cool. And Rod, you read a little thing doing some research as well about Walt had a certain phrase that he would use when he approved of one of their songs.
Yeah. Apparently if Walt came in and said, that'll work, that just meant he loved it, it's a wrap, it's going in the film. I just love that. As opposed to the Sherman Brothers, which were like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I just love that.
Well, and Walt being just so cash about it, like, not, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Just like, yep, that'll work.
It's like the story of when they built the Matterhorn and Walt just brought up the Matterhorn postcard, handed it to him, said, build this.
Yeah.
I love that.
He didn't give that to the Sherman Brothers.
No, that wasn't the Sherman Brothers, no.
Just to clarify.
Very good point. Well, so what's your favorite movie score or movie song from the Sherman Brothers?
This was really hard. I knew we were going to do this at the end of this episode, but actually choosing one was really, really hard. I wrote down like 6 of them, but I will pick one on the fly. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. Okay,
There's so many bangers, I know.
I know. Okay, I'm going to say that my favorite film Sherman Brothers song is, I'm going to go with I Want to Be Like You.
Okay,
from the Jungle Book.
Very good pick.
I had
Solid
so
pick.
many written down, but let's hear yours, and then I'll give you my honorable mentions.
Mine's not going to be any surprise. I already just said it, and it's The Old Bamboo from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, a Universal picture, not a Disney picture. I absolutely love the song. I love the film piece with Dick Van Dyke doing things with his legs, dancing that rival Michael Flatterly or Flatterly. Flatley, yeah, the Lord of the Dance.
The Irish jig guy? His legs flail about as if independent from his body.
If you haven't seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang since you were a kid, or you've never seen it, or you are not remembering this song or this number, do yourself a favor and go look it up on YouTube right now, because it is a true treat. You can tell that a lot of those guys with the Old Bamboo are fresh out of doing Chim Chim Cheree with chimney sweeps.
Yeah,
it's a lot of the same energy.
Gotta be the same people.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know if it's the same choreographer, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
It was so good. And you can tell it's it was choreographed with Dick Van Dyke in mind.
Oh, yeah. But you can hear the Sherman Brothers writing in it, too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's such a fun number. That's a great choice.
All right, here's another one for you. I'm going to throw a curveball at you. What's your favorite attraction song from the Sherman Brothers?
I already know which one you're going to say, so I'm not going to say that one.
Well, I'll just say it. My favorite, of course, is One Little Spark.
And we are Epcotian. That is very fitting. That is from the Epcot attraction Journey into Imagination segment.
The case, yes.
That's such a great one. I think I'm going to go with Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. And that is from Magic Kingdom, Carousel of Progress.
The COP.
Such a good one. Yep. I do, special shout out. I've got a special place in my heart for Small World. And the lyrics are gorgeous. I know it's an earworm. I know everyone hates or loves to hate it or hates to love it or whatever you feel about it. But it is a beautiful, beautiful song.
Growing up, one of my favorite ones was the Tiki, Tiki, Tiki Room. But I was a lead there, so I heard Tiki, Tiki, Tiki times thousands of times. And yeah, it's an earworm, but I don't know. I think I heard it too many times. So.
I think some other film ones deserve honorable mentions, though, because,
yeah.
like I said, I did write down a million of them. Jolly Holiday is such a classic tune, and there's a moment in the documentary we mentioned earlier, The Boys, where they're talking, the brothers are talking about writing the music for that. It is mind-blowing. He's talking about starting in the key of C, so you don't start in the key of C. So you would start in the key of maybe G sharp, and then you work your way into F, and then you work your way into E flat. And like, he's going through all these things where he's working his way down so that by the time you get to the crux of the song, you're finally in C, and you don't even know that you've taken this journey. But it's absolutely incredible, moment.
Didn't he call it the happy key?
Yeah.
Like the key of C is the happy key.
It was so good. But I mean, I also want to mention Trust in Me from Jungle Book, because such a great song, especially the Susie and the Banshees version, which, that's a little different, but I love that one. Little Black Rain Cloud. Come on, that is a classic.
Oh, from
Winnie the
Pooh.
And this one is one of those lesser celebrated ones, and you probably hate it because it's one of the slower ones. But again, from Jungle Book, My Own Home at the end.
Yeah.
The melody of that one is so hauntingly beautiful. I love it. I love it. It's a very short song, but it's beautiful. So anyway, very hard to pick a favorite Sherman Brothers song because they sing it all. They had all of those tunes. So we want to know your favorite, of course. What is your favorite Sherman Brothers tune, either from a park, from a film, or give us both?
So, was it worth going to the experience? Well, of course it was. For one, we'd already paid to go to D23, and this was one of the ones that we really did want to go see.
It was at the top of my list.
Yeah.
For sure.
Me too.
I mean, along
Me
with
too.
a couple others, but it was definitely a tier 1 choice.
So glad we did it, and folks, that's finally the end of our D23 episodes. So let us know, again, if you went to D23, what you got to do. If you got to go to this experience, let us know what you thought. And like Sue said, tell us your favorite Sherman Brothers. There's all kinds of stuff, attractions and movies. And anyway, there's no such thing as a bad Sherman Brothers, too.
It's true.
Except maybe Feed the Birds.
No.
Okay.
That's Walt's favorite. They're all good.
Before we go, we'd like to give a big thank you to our theme music composer, Jason Patrick Rowan, whose music is licensed through Pond 5. And of course, thank you, Phoenician.
Thank you, Phoenicians. And don't forget to rate, review, like, share, and subscribe. It really does help other people find us. You can find us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Epcotian Adventure is a $1,000 brunch production and a proud gold member of D23. Thanks for joining us today for episode 79 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And we'll see you in line.
Bye. He's talking about starting in the key of C, so you don't start in the key of C. You start in the key of G, not G plus.
It's the lovely key of G plus.
Cut that out.
Well, okay.